The alarm screamed through the command center like a dying animal. Captain Dae-hyun gripped the edge of his console as the screens filled with red dots. Thousands of them. Each dot was a Velkarn war machine, and they were all coming toward New Seoul. "How many?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 4,000 confirmed contacts, sir," Lieutenant Hana reported from her station. Her voice shook. "More dropping out of hyperspace every minute." Dae-hyun watched the dots multiply on the screen. The Velkarn Dominion had sent 3 fleets to wipe out 3 human colonies in the past year. Each time, humanity had tried to fight back. Each time, the colonies had been turned to glass and ash. New Seoul was next, and everyone in the command center knew it. "Get me Earth Command," Dae-hyun ordered. The communication took 30 seconds to connect. When Admiral Minho's face appeared on the screen, he looked like he had aged 10 years since their last conversation. "Captain, you need to evacuate immediately," the Admiral said. "We cannot hold New Seoul. Get your people out while you still can." "Sir, there are 2 million people down there," Dae-hyun said. "We need more time. You have 6 hours before the Velkarn begin bombardment. That is all I can give you." The Admiral's face softened slightly. "I am sorry, Captain. We are out of options." The screen went dark. Around him, the command center had gone silent. Everyone was staring at their stations, pretending to work while they processed what they had just heard. Earth was abandoning them. Dae-hyun looked out the wide viewing port. Below, the planet New Seoul glowed blue and green in the darkness of space. It looked so much like Earth. Humans had spent 50 years making this world home. They had planted forests and built cities. Children had been born here who had never seen Earth, and now it would all burn. "Sir?" Lieutenant Hana was looking at him. "Your orders?" He should order the evacuation. He should get as many people off the planet as possible and run. That was the smart choice. That was what any good commander would do. But Dae-hyun was tired of running. "Begin evacuation of all non-essential personnel," he said slowly. "But I want every defense platform online, every ship in the orbital fleet armed and ready. If the Velkarn want this planet, they will have to bleed for it." The crew stared at him like he had lost his mind. Maybe he had. "Sir, we cannot win this fight," Hana said quietly. "I know," Dae-hyun replied. "But we can buy time. Every minute we hold them here is another minute for the evacuation ships to get away." The Velkarn arrived exactly when predicted. They did not send messages or demands. They simply began killing everything in orbit. The war machines were perfect in their efficiency. They moved in coordinated swarms, each unit supporting the others. They did not hesitate. They did not fear. They were just cold metal and colder logic. The human defense fleet lasted 18 minutes. Dae-hyun watched ship after ship explode on his screens. The Velkarn drones cut through the human vessels like they were made of paper. Energy beams and kinetic rounds tore hull plating apart. Dozens of his people died with each ship that went dark. "Fall back to the station," he ordered the surviving ships. "Reform around us." Only 3 ships made it back. The Velkarn swarm began moving toward the defense station itself. Dae-hyun knew they had minutes, maybe less. Then his console beeped with an incoming message. Priority channel. Origin, Earth. "This is Dr. Hana calling from Genesis facility," a woman's voice said. It was strange hearing someone else with the same name as his lieutenant. "Captain Dae-hyun, you are ordered to hold your position for 12 more hours. Help is coming." "What kind of help?" Dae-hyun demanded. "Unless you are sending a fleet, there is nothing that can save us." "We are not sending a fleet, Captain," Dr. Hana said. There was something in her voice, something that might have been hope or might have been madness. "We are sending something the Velkarn have never faced before, something they cannot predict or understand. Hold the line, Captain. Earth has not forgotten you." The transmission ended. Dae-hyun stared at the empty screen for a long moment, then looked up at his crew. You heard the doctor, he said. We hold for 12 hours. Sir, the Velkarn will be in firing range in 3 minutes, Lieutenant Hana reported. Then we make those 3 minutes count. The battle for the station was brutal. The Velkarn did not waste ammunition on elegant tactics. They simply surrounded the station and began tearing it apart piece by piece. Human weapons fired back, destroying dozens of drones. But for every drone destroyed, 2 more took its place. Dae-hyun moved through the station corridors as hull breaches opened to vacuum. He helped seal doors and drag wounded crew to safety. The air tasted like smoke and blood. The walls shook with each impact. Sir, we have lost weapons grid 4, someone shouted over the comms. Reroute power from life support in that section, Dae-hyun ordered. Keep the guns firing. Captain, incoming message from the surface, Lieutenant Hana said. She was bleeding from a cut on her forehead, but still at her post. The evacuation ships are away. All civilian transports have cleared the gravity well. Good, Dae-hyun said. That is good. Another explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency red lighting. Hull integrity at 30%, someone reported. We cannot take much more of this. Dae-hyun checked the time. They had held for 9 hours, 3 more to go. It felt like an eternity. On the surface of New Seoul, the Velkarn had begun landing ground forces. Thousands of war machines descended from orbit, spreading across the continents. They hunted the humans who had not made it to the evacuation ships. Those who hid in the forests and mountains, hoping somehow to survive. The machines were thorough. They used thermal sensors and acoustic detection to find every hiding place. There was no mercy in their programming. They had been sent to erase humanity from New Seoul, and they would complete their mission. In the forests south of the capital city, a group of 50 humans huddled in an underground bunker. They listened to the sounds of the machines above, the heavy footfalls of metal feet and the whine of energy weapons charging. They will find us eventually, one man whispered. We should have taken the ships. The ships were full, another replied. We had no choice. They sat in the darkness and waited for death. On the station, Dae-hyun checked the time again. 11 hours. 1 more to go. If Dr. Hana had been telling the truth, help would arrive in 1 hour, but he had seen half his station destroyed. He had watched good people die. And for what? What could Earth possibly send that would make a difference against the Velkarn? Captain, new contacts, Lieutenant Hana said suddenly. Ships dropping out of hyperspace, reading as human signatures. Dae-hyun felt something stir in his chest. Hope, maybe, or just desperation. How many ships? He asked. Just 3, sir. Frigate-class transports. The hope died. 3 transports would not change anything. The Velkarn would destroy them in minutes. But then one of the transports opened its bay doors, and something came out into space, something that made no sense, something impossible. Sir, Lieutenant Hana said, her voice filled with disbelief. The transports are deploying. I do not know what they are deploying. The computer cannot identify them. Dae-hyun pulled up the visual feed on his screen. What he saw made him question his sanity, because descending toward New Seoul in drop pods were not human soldiers or war machines. They were tigers, massive tigers with bodies covered in what looked like armor plating. Tigers with eyes that glowed in the darkness of space. Tigers that should not exist, because tigers had been extinct on Earth for over 70 years. And riding in the pods beside each tiger was a human soldier. Their minds linked together by technology Dae-hyun could not begin to understand. Dr. Hana's voice came over the comms one more time. Captain Dae-hyun, I present Project Genesis. The Velkarn sent war machines after us. We are sending the tigers that once vanished. Let us see which one the universe remembers. 3 weeks earlier, Dr. Hana had walked through doors that had not been opened in 20 years. The Genesis facility was buried 3 kilometers beneath what used to be the Korean peninsula, in tunnels that had once separated 2 nations. Now those tunnels housed humanity's most desperate secret. The main laboratory was enormous, carved from solid rock and lined with tanks of green liquid. Each tank held something that should not exist, something that had been lost to time and human carelessness. "Welcome to the Ark," Professor Taman said as he walked beside her. He was an old man now, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 30 years building this place. "We have been waiting for someone to have the courage to use it." Dr. Hana stared at the tanks. Inside each one, shapes floated in the growth medium. She could see stripes, fur, claws. "How many?" she asked. 53 subjects currently in growth," Professor Taman replied. "Siberian tigers, Korean tigers, Bengal tigers. We used DNA from the last specimens, but we improved them. Stronger bones, denser muscle tissue, enhanced neural capacity. They are not exactly like their ancestors. They are better." "Better for what?" Dr. Hana knew the answer, but she needed to hear him say it. "For war," the professor said quietly. "When the Velkarn began their campaign of extermination, we knew conventional weapons would not be enough. The machines are too efficient, too coordinated. They adapt to our tactics within hours. So we needed something they could not predict, something outside their experience." He led her to a control room overlooking the tanks. Inside, a dozen scientists monitored screens filled with biological data. "Apex predators," Professor Taman continued. "Evolution spent millions of years perfecting them. Hunters that could stalk prey for days. Killers that could take down animals 5 times their size. But we lost them. Humanity hunted them to extinction because we feared them. And now we want to bring them back to fight for us," Dr. Hana said. "Is that not cruel?" "Perhaps," the professor admitted. "But the alternative is that humanity joins the list of extinct species. The Velkarn will not stop until we are all dead. So yes, I am willing to be cruel if it means survival." General Minho arrived that evening with 50 soldiers. They were all volunteers. All of them knew they might not survive what came next. Dr. Hana gathered them in a briefing room and explained what Project Genesis required. The tigers would be powerful weapons, but they needed guidance. They needed human intelligence to direct their instincts. "We have developed a neural interface," she said, showing them images of the device. "It will be implanted at the base of your skull. Once active, you will share a connection with your tiger. You will feel what it feels, see what it sees. Your thoughts will blend together." One of the soldiers raised his hand. His name was Yuna, though he looked barely old enough to be in the military. "Doctor, will we still be ourselves?" he asked. "Or will the tiger's instincts take over?" It was a good question, an important question. "We do not know for certain," Dr. Hana admitted. "The simulation suggests that both minds will remain distinct but connected. You will still be you. The tiger will still be itself, but you will understand each other in ways that go beyond language." Another soldier, a woman named Jiwoo, stood up. "What happens if the connection fails? What if the tiger rejects us?" "Then you will likely die," Professor Taman said bluntly. He had joined them in the briefing room. "The neural shock would be fatal, but if you succeed, you will become something new, something humanity has never created before. A perfect union of human intelligence and animal power." The soldiers looked at each other. Some seemed excited, others terrified, but none of them left. The first bonding happened 2 days later. Yuna had volunteered to go first. Dr. Hana tried to talk him out of it, but he insisted. "Someone has to be first," he said with a nervous smile. "It might as well be me." They brought him to the bonding chamber. In the center of the room, a massive tiger was being lifted from its growth tank. The animal was magnificent, easily twice the size of the extinct tigers it was based on. Its fur was orange and black, striped in patterns that seemed to shift in the light. Metal plates had been grafted onto its skeleton, visible beneath the skin like shadows. The tiger was unconscious, but Dr. Hana could see its chest rising and falling. It was alive. After 70 years, tigers walked the earth again. Yuna lay down on the medical table. Technicians attached sensors to his head and chest. Dr. Hana personally implanted the neural interface, a device no larger than a coin that would connect his brain to the tiger's nervous system. "Are you ready?" she asked. Yuna nodded. His hands were shaking. Dr. Hana activated the interface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Yuna screamed. His body convulsed on the table. Blood ran from his nose. The sensors showed his brain activity spiking to dangerous levels. Across the room, the tiger's eyes snapped open. They glowed with an unnatural light. "His heart rate is critical," one of the technicians shouted. "We need to shut it down." "No," Professor Tae-min said firmly. "Give him time." "His mind is adapting." Yuna continued to scream. His back arched off the table. Dr. Hana watched in horror, wondering if they had just killed him. Then suddenly, the screaming stopped. Yuna's eyes opened, but they were different now. They had the same glow as the tiger's eyes. Across the room, the tiger rose to its feet. It moved slowly, testing its legs. Then it turned its head and looked directly at Yuna. The young soldier sat up on the table. He was breathing hard, covered in sweat, but he was smiling. "I can feel it," he whispered. "I can feel everything. Its strength, its hunger, its joy." He laughed, a sound of pure amazement. "It is happy to be alive." Dr. Hana felt tears on her cheeks. She had not realized she was crying. Over the next week, 49 more soldiers bonded with tigers. 3 did not survive the process. Their minds could not handle the connection, and they died as the neural shock stopped their hearts. Dr. Hana attended their funerals and wondered if she was a scientist or a murderer. But the others succeeded. 47 human-tiger pairs, each one unique, each one deadly. The training began immediately. The pairs learned to move together, to fight together. The humans taught the tigers strategy and tactics. The tigers taught the humans to hunt, to stalk, to kill without hesitation. Yuna and his tiger, which he named Baek-du after the sacred mountain, became the best of them all. They moved like one creature, anticipating each other's actions perfectly. When Yuna thought about moving left, Baek-du was already turning. When Baek-du sensed danger, Yuna's hand moved to his weapon before he consciously knew why. General Minho watched the training sessions with satisfaction. "They are perfect," he told Dr. Hana. "The Velkarn will not know what hit them." But Dr. Hana was not so sure. She watched Yuna sitting beside Baek-du during a rest period. The young soldier had his hand buried in the tiger's fur. Both of them had their eyes closed, sharing thoughts in silence. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked Yuna. "The bonding?" Yuna opened his eyes and considered the question. "Every day," he said honestly. "Baek-du's instincts are so strong. Sometimes I forget I am human. I smell prey and want to chase it. I hear threats and want to fight." He scratched behind the tiger's ears. "But I also feel free in ways I never did before. I understand things I could not before. The world is bigger and stranger than I ever imagined." "And Baek-du? What does he feel?" Yuna was quiet for a moment, listening to thoughts that only he could hear. "He feels proud. He knows his kind vanished from the world. But now he is here again, and he has a purpose. He will fight for the humans because I am human, and I will fight for the tigers because he is a tiger." The message came on the 10th day of training. The Velkarn had reached New Seoul. The colony would fall within hours unless help arrived. General Minho gathered the Genesis teams. "This is what we trained for," he said. The Velkarn think they can erase us from the universe. We are going to teach them why that was a mistake." The soldiers cheered. Beside them, 47 tigers roared in unison. The sound echoed through the facility like thunder. Dr. Hana watched them board the transport ships. She saw Yuna and Baekdu walking side by side, so perfectly in sync that it was hard to tell where the human ended and the tiger began. Professor Taemin stood beside her. "Do you think they will survive?" he asked. "I think they will do what they were made to do," Dr. Hana replied. "They will fight, and the Velkarn will learn that Earth does not forget its children, not even the ones we lost." The transports launched into the darkness of space, carrying humanity's strangest and most desperate weapon toward New Seoul, toward war, toward a battle that would be remembered for 1,000 years. In the cargo hold, Yuna sat with his back against Baekdu's side. The tiger's breathing was steady and calm. Through their connection, Yuna could feel the animal's confidence. Baekdu was not afraid of the coming battle. He was eager for it. The drop pods hit the forest floor like meteors. Trees exploded into splinters. Earth and rocks sprayed in all directions. When the smoke cleared, 47 doors hissed open. Yuna stepped out first, his boots sinking into soft soil. The air smelled like pine and burning metal. Beside him, Baekdu emerged from the pod, his massive form casting a shadow across the ground. The tiger's head swung left and right, taking in the new environment. Through their connection, Yuna felt Baekdu's excitement. This was a real forest, not a training facility. There were prey animals here, real smells, real sounds. The tiger's instincts surged, wanting to hunt. "Focus," Yuna whispered, placing a hand on Baekdu's flank. "We have a different kind of prey today." The other teams emerged from their pods, Jiwoo and her tiger, a female named Hala. Do-hyun and his massive male, Jiri. 47 pairs, all ready for war. Captain Dae-hyun's voice crackled over their comm units. "Genesis teams, this is Orbital Command. The Velkarn have deployed ground forces across all continents. We count approximately 10,000 units. They are hunting the civilians who did not make it to the evacuation." "Understood," Yuna replied. He was the team leader now, though he still felt too young for the responsibility. "What are your orders?" "Find the Velkarn. Kill them. Buy us time to get the rest of the civilians off-world." There was a pause. "And Genesis team, thank you. What you are doing, it is not just brave. It is miracle. Good hunting." The comm went silent. Yuna looked at the others. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes. But they were ready. "We split into groups of 5, Yuna ordered. "Spread across the continent. The Velkarn will be searching for human heat signatures. Let us give them what they are looking for." The teams moved into the forest. Yuna, Jiwoo, Do-hyun, and 2 others headed north, where the Velkarn concentration was highest. They moved quickly, the tigers slipping through the undergrowth like shadows. The humans ran beside them, their enhanced connection allowing them to match the animal's pace. Baekdu stopped suddenly, his ears flicking forward. Through their bond, Yuna felt it. Vibrations in the ground, metal footsteps, a lot of them. "Contact ahead," Yuna whispered into his comm. 20 meters, moving in patrol formation." He crept forward, staying low. Through the trees, he saw them. 6 Velkarn war machines, each one 3 meters tall. They moved on 4 legs, their bodies covered in armor plating. Weapons mounted on their backs swiveled constantly, scanning for targets. They were hunting, looking for humans to kill. Yuna felt Baekdu's muscles tense. The tiger wanted to attack. Every instinct screamed at it to charge, to sink claws and teeth into prey. "Wait!" Yuna thought at him. "Not yet." He signaled the others. They spread out, surrounding the Velkarn patrol. The machines had sensors that could detect heat and sound, but they were looking for human signatures. They were not prepared for what was coming. Yuna gave the signal. Bekdu exploded from the undergrowth like lightning. 400 kilograms of enhanced muscle and bone crashed into the nearest Velkarn. The machine had no time to react. Bekdu's claws, reinforced with the same metal grafted to his bones, tore through the armor plating like paper. The tiger's jaws clamped down on what passed for the machine's neck, and with a twist of his massive head, Bekdu ripped it apart. The other tigers struck at the same moment. The Velkarn patrol did not even have time to send a distress signal. Within seconds, all 6 machines lay in pieces on the forest floor. Jiwoo stood beside her tiger, breathing hard. "That was too easy," she said. "The first one always is," Yuna replied. "They will adapt quickly. The Velkarn always do." He was right. Over the next hour, they ambushed 3 more patrols. But by the 4th encounter, the Velkarn had changed their tactics. They moved in larger groups now. Their sensors had been recalibrated to detect the tiger's heat signatures. When Bekdu charged the next patrol, the machines were ready. Energy beams lanced out, scorching the ground where the tiger had been a second before. Bekdu dodged, but barely. One beam grazed his shoulder, burning through fur and skin. Yuna felt the pain as if it were his own. He gritted his teeth and raised his rifle, firing at the Velkarn. The bullets sparked off their armor. They had upgraded their plating, too. "Fall back," he ordered. "They are learning." The teams retreated into the deep forest, where the dense trees made it harder for the Velkarn to use their energy weapons effectively. Behind them, they could hear the machines pursuing. The footsteps were louder now, heavier, more of them. "They are bringing in reinforcements," Do-hyun said. His tiger, Jiri, was limping from a wound on his rear leg. "We cannot keep fighting like this." Yuna checked his tactical display. Red dots were converging on their position from all directions. The Velkarn had realized the tigers were a threat and were mobilizing to eliminate them. "Then we change tactics," Yuna said. "If they want to hunt us, we will lead them somewhere we choose, somewhere they cannot use their numbers against us." He brought up a map of the region. 10 kilometers north was a canyon system, narrow and winding, perfect for an ambush. "We run for the canyons," Yuna ordered. "Use the terrain against them, make them come at us in small numbers." They ran. The tigers covered ground faster than any human could, and the bonded soldiers rode on their backs, clinging to the metal plates grafted to the animals' spines. Behind them, the Velkarn followed, hundreds of them now, converging like a metal tide. In orbit, Captain Dae-hyun watched the tactical display with growing concern. The Genesis teams were being pushed back. The Velkarn were adapting faster than anticipated. "They need support," Lieutenant Hana said. "We have nothing left to give them," Dae-hyun replied bitterly. "Our ships are gone. The station is barely functional. All we can do is watch." But then something unexpected happened. As the Velkarn pursued the Genesis teams into the canyons, they began to slow down. The narrow passages forced them into single file. Their sensors, calibrated for open combat, struggled with the echoing walls and multiple heat signatures. And the tigers were waiting. Bekdu and Yuna perched on a ledge 10 meters above the canyon floor. Below, a column of Velkarn machines marched through the passage. They were packed tight, unable to spread out or use their weapons effectively. Yuna felt Bekdu's anticipation. This was what the tiger understood. Ambush. The patient wait. The perfect moment to strike. "Now!" Yuna whispered. Bekdu leaped from the ledge, landing on top of the lead Velkarn machine. His weight drove the machine to its knees. His claws found the joints in its armor, tearing through the weaker points. Around them, the other tigers dropped from the canyon walls, crashing into the Velkarn column. The machines tried to fight back, but there was no room. Their energy weapons hit each other as often as they hit the tigers. Their coordination, Their greatest strength became a weakness in the confined space. The battle was brutal and close. Yuna fired his rifle point-blank into the machine's sensor clusters, blinding them. Baekdu moved like a demon, claws and teeth finding weak points with surgical precision. The bond between them was so strong now that Yuna did not even need to think. He simply acted, and Baekdu moved to support him. All along the canyon, the same scene played out. The Genesis teams tore through the Velkarn forces with savage efficiency. Machines fell in pieces. Sparks and hydraulic fluids sprayed across the canyon walls. But the Tigers were bleeding too. Jiwoo's Hala took an energy beam to her side and collapsed, crying out in pain. Jiwoo felt every bit of that pain through their bond and nearly blacked out. "Hala," she sobbed, crawling to the tiger's side. "Hold on! Please hold on!" Do-hyun and Jiri stood over them, defending their position as more Velkarn closed in. "We need to extract," Do-hyun shouted. "We are losing too many." Yuna wanted to argue, but he knew Do-hyun was right. They had hurt the Velkarn badly, but they could not win through direct combat, not against these numbers. "All teams, fall back to extraction point Beta," he ordered. "Move now." They retreated deeper into the canyons, carrying their wounded. Behind them, the Velkarn regrouped. The machines were damaged but not defeated, and now they were angry. On the command ship in orbit, a Velkarn intelligence unit designated as Commander 777 reviewed the battle data. The attacks had been unexpected. Biological creatures should not have been able to harm their war machines so effectively. Commander 777 accessed its database, searching for information on these predators. Tigers, extinct for over 70 years, but somehow humanity had brought them back and bonded with them. It was inefficient, illogical. Machines were superior to biology in every measurable way. Yet the battle results did not lie. The Tigers had killed hundreds of Velkarn units. They moved unpredictably. They fought with a savagery that machine calculations could not account for. Commander 777 made a decision. It would send its elite units, the heavy assault machines. If the humans wanted to fight with primitive animals, the Velkarn would respond with overwhelming force. The war was escalating, and soon the forests of New Seoul would run red with both blood and oil. The field hospital was a nightmare of blood and burnt fur. Dr. Hana moved between the wounded, doing what she could to save both humans and tigers. Hala lay on a medical table, her breathing shallow. The energy beam had burned deep into her side, cauterizing as it cut. Jiwoo sat beside her tiger, holding the animal's massive paw. "She is strong," Dr. Hana said, injecting pain medication into Hala's bloodstream. "The wound is bad but not fatal. She will survive." Jiwoo did not look up. Tears ran down her face. "I felt her die," she whispered. "For a moment, when the beam hit, I felt her life slipping away. I thought I would die too." "The bond is deep," Dr. Hana said gently. "But it does not mean death for one is death for both. You will heal together." Outside the hospital, the remaining Genesis teams prepared for their next mission. They had hurt the Velkarn badly in the canyons, but the machines kept coming. More reinforcements arrived every hour. The war was turning against them. Captain Dae-hyun descended from orbit in a damaged shuttle. The defense station was barely functional now, held together by emergency repairs and prayers, but he could not sit in orbit while his people fought and died below. He found Yuna sitting beside Baekdu. The tiger was resting, but his eyes were alert. The animal's shoulder wound had been bandaged, but blood still seeped through the dressing. "We cannot keep fighting like this," Dae-hyun said, sitting down beside the young soldier. "The Velkarn are adapting. Every battle they get smarter. Soon they will find a tactic we cannot counter." "I know," Yuna replied. Through his bond with Baekdu, he could feel the tiger's exhaustion. They had been fighting for 3 days straight. "But what choice do we have? If we stop fighting, the Velkarn will kill everyone. Dae-hyun pulled out his tactical display. The Velkarn mothership is in orbit. That is where their command intelligence is located. If we could destroy it, the rest of the fleet would lose coordination. It might buy us enough time to evacuate the remaining civilians. How do we reach it? Yuna asked. We have no ships left. Not true, Dae-hyun said with a grim smile. Yesterday, a Velkarn transport crashed 30 kilometers east of here. My engineers think they can get it flying. If we can board it and reach the mothership before the Velkarn realize it has been compromised. It is a suicide mission, Yuna finished. Yes, it is. They looked at each other. Both of them were young men who had been forced to become soldiers, who had seen too much death, who were so very tired. How many can the transport carry? Yuna asked. 20 people, 10 tigers. Then I will take my best teams. Yuna stood up, and Baekdu rose with him. The others can continue the ground campaign. Keep the Velkarn distracted. Dae-hyun put a hand on Yuna's shoulder. You do not have to do this. Let me lead the mission. With respect, Captain, you do not have a tiger. Yuna smiled. Besides, Baekdu wants to see space. He has been curious about it. Through their bond, Yuna felt Baekdu's amusement. The tiger did not care about space, but he cared about his human, and he would go wherever Yuna went. The Velkarn transport was an ugly thing, built for function rather than beauty. Dae-hyun's engineers had patched the hull breaches and convinced the engines to fire. It would fly. Probably. Yuna selected his team carefully. Ji-woo and Hala stayed behind, still recovering from their wounds. He took Do-yun and Jiri. Along with 8 other pairs he trusted completely. Warriors who had proven themselves in battle. Tigers who had learned to fight in the canyons and forests. They loaded into the transport, the tigers filling the cargo bay with their massive bodies. The space was cramped, designed for machines rather than living creatures. The air smelled like metal and old blood. Remember, Dae-hyun said over the comm. Once you are inside the mothership, you will have maybe 20 minutes before the Velkarn realize what is happening. Find the command core, plant the charges, get out. And if we cannot get out? Yuna asked. Dae-hyun was silent for a long moment. Then your sacrifice will be remembered. Earth will remember. The transport launched. The flight was rough, the damaged engines struggling to reach orbit. Through the viewports, Yuna watched New Seoul fall away below. The planet looked peaceful from up here. Beautiful. It was hard to believe a war was raging on its surface. Beside him, Baekdu pressed against his leg. The tiger was nervous. Space was wrong. No ground, no sky, just emptiness. But Yuna was here, so Baekdu would be brave. I am scared too, Yuna whispered, scratching behind the tiger's ears. But we will face it together. The Velkarn fleet appeared ahead of them. Hundreds of ships, all dark metal and angular design. No beauty, no art, just function and death. The mothership was enormous, easily 10 kilometers long. It bristled with weapons and sensors, a fortress in space. Velkarn Command, this is Transport Unit 743 requesting docking clearance, Dae-hyun's voice said over the comm. He was disguising his voice, making it sound mechanical. We have captured biological samples for analysis. There was a pause. Yuna held his breath. If the Velkarn saw through the deception, they would be destroyed before they could even board. Clearance granted, a mechanical voice replied. Proceed to Docking Bay 12. The transport moved toward the mothership. A bay door opened, revealing a cavernous space inside. Velkarn machines moved through the bay, unloading cargo and performing maintenance. None of them paid attention to the arriving transport. The ship touched down with a heavy thud. The bay door sealed behind them. They were inside. Go, Yuna said softly. Move fast and quiet. The cargo ramp lowered, 10 tigers padded out into the Velkarn mothership, their human partners moving beside them. The other Velkarn machines barely glanced at them. To their sensors, the transport was one of their own, but then Bekdu growled, low and threatening. He had sensed something. A Velkarn unit turned toward them, its sensors focused on the tigers. Analysis ran through its processors. These were not cargo. These were weapons. The transport had been compromised. "Contact!" Yuna shouted, raising his rifle. Everything happened at once. The Velkarn unit raised the alarm. Weapons ports opened in the walls. Energy beams filled the docking bay with light. The tigers scattered, moving faster than the machines could track. Bekdu leaped at the nearest Velkarn unit, his claws finding purchase on the metal hull. His jaws clamped down on a sensor cluster, tearing it free. Sparks flew. The Genesis teams fought their way across the docking bay. Every meter was paid for in blood and pain. A tiger named Cheonma took an energy beam to the chest and fell, his human partner crying out in shared agony. Another team was cut down by a security drone, but they kept moving. They had to reach the command core. Yuna led the way, following the schematic Dae-hyun had uploaded to his tactical display. Through the corridors of the mothership, fighting every step. The Velkarn were everywhere, responding to the intrusion with overwhelming force. "Left here!" Yuna shouted, turning down a corridor. Bekdu was bleeding from a dozen wounds, but still fought like a demon. The tiger's rage fed through the bond, giving Yuna strength. They reached the command core. It was a massive chamber filled with processors and data streams. In the center, a single Velkarn unit stood taller than the rest. Commander 777, the intelligence coordinating the entire invasion. "You are the tiger handlers," the commander said. Its voice was strange, almost curious. "I have analyzed your tactics. You fight with ferocity that machines cannot replicate. Why?" "Because we are alive," Yuna replied, planting the first demolition charge. "Because we feel pain and fear and love, things you gave up when you became machines. We did not give them up. We transcended them." Commander 777 watched Yuna plant the charges. It made no move to stop him. "Our species was biological once. We suffered disease, aging, death. So we uploaded our consciousness into machines. We became perfect. And lost everything that mattered," Dae-hyun said, emerging from another corridor. He was wounded, bleeding from his side, but still standing. "We know what you were. We accessed your archives. You erased your own biology because you were afraid of death." "Fear is illogical," Commander 777 said. "Fear is what makes us human," Yuna replied. "We are terrified right now, every one of us, but we fight anyway, because we have something worth fighting for." He placed the last charge and activated the timer. 5 minutes. "You cannot escape in time," Commander 777 said. "You will die here." "Maybe," Yuna said, "but we will die as ourselves, not as pale copies hiding in metal shells." For a long moment, Commander 777 was silent. Then it did something unexpected. It opened a sealed door at the far end of the chamber. "Escape pods are through there," the commander said. "You have 4 minutes. Go." "Why are you helping us?" Dae-hyun asked, shocked. "Because I have spent 300 years forgetting what it means to be alive. You have reminded me." The commander turned back to its console. "Go, before I change my mind." They ran, through the corridors, racing against time. Behind them they could hear Velkarn units responding, trying to stop them. But Commander 777 was blocking their access, shutting doors and rerouting security forces. They reached the escape pod bay with 30 seconds to spare, cramming tigers and humans into pods designed for machines. Yuna and Bekdu squeezed into the last pod with Do-hyun and Jiri. The pod launched just as the charges detonated. The Velkarn mothership tore apart from the inside. Explosions ripped through its hull. Secondary detonations followed as power cores overloaded. The massive vessel broke in half. spilling fire and debris into space. From his pod, Yuna watched it die. And he thought about Commander 777, the machine that had remembered what it meant to be alive just long enough to save them. Then the pod was falling toward New Seoul, carrying them home. The escape pod crashed into a lake 50 kilometers from the capital city. Water rushed in through cracked seals as the pod sank. Yuna kicked open the hatch, and Baekdu swam beside him toward the surface. The tiger's powerful legs propelled them both upward through the dark water. They broke the surface, gasping. Around them, other pods were floating or had already reached shore. Not all of them. Yuna counted 6 pods. They had launched with 10. 4 teams had not made it. Do-hyun and Jiri pulled themselves onto the muddy bank. The tiger shook himself, spraying water everywhere. Both of them were exhausted, barely able to stand. "Is it over?" Do-hyun asked, collapsing onto the ground. "Did we win?" Yuna looked up at the sky. Where the Velkarn mothership had been, there was only debris. The other Velkarn vessels were scattering, their coordination broken. Without the command intelligence, they were just individual ships operating on basic programming. "The battle is over," Yuna said. "But the war continues. The Velkarn Dominion still controls 12 star systems. They will send more fleets eventually." But for now, New Seoul was safe. Captain Dae-hyun's shuttle found them an hour later. The captain looked like he had aged 10 years in 3 days. His uniform was torn and stained with blood, but he was smiling. "You did it," he said, helping Yuna to his feet. "The Velkarn fleet is in full retreat. The civilian transports are returning. We held the planet." "How many did we lose?" Yuna asked. Dae-hyun's smile faded. 31 Genesis teams did not come back. 17 more are wounded badly enough that they cannot fight again. Yuna felt the weight of those numbers. Each team was 2 lives bound together. 62 humans and 62 tigers, gone. He had known many of them, fought beside them. "They died as heroes," Dae-hyun said quietly. "Earth will remember them." The news of New Seoul's defense spread across human space faster than any ship could travel. Stories of the Genesis teams fighting alongside resurrected tigers captured the imagination of billions. Humanity had faced extinction and found hope in the creatures they had once destroyed. Within weeks, volunteers flooded the Genesis facility. Thousands of people wanting to bond with the new apex predators being grown in the vats. Dr. Hana found herself overseeing the expansion of the program. Tigers were just the beginning. The facility began growing wolves, bears, eagles, every apex predator that humanity had driven to extinction. Professor Taemin watched the expansion with mixed feelings. "We are creating an army of predators," he said to Dr. Hana. "I wonder if our ancestors would be proud or horrified." "Both, probably," Dr. Hana replied. She was watching a new batch of tigers being awakened. These were smaller than Baekdu's generation, refined for different combat roles. But they would understand why we are doing it. Survival demands difficult choices. The political situation changed too. Ambassador Jiwoo, who had failed to negotiate peace with the Velkarn, found new leverage. Other species in the galaxy had watched the Battle of New Seoul with interest. They had seen biological warriors defeat machine superiority. Jiwoo stood before the Galactic Council, a gathering of 20 different species. Most of them had avoided confrontation with the Velkarn, afraid of their military might. "The Velkarn believe biology is weakness," Jiwoo said. "They think machines are the only path to perfection, but they are wrong. Life is not a weakness. It is our greatest strength. Humans bonded with extinct predators and held a planet against impossible odds. Imagine what we could do together." She proposed the biological compact, an alliance of organic species standing against machine expansion. The council was skeptical at first, but the footage from New Seoul was undeniable. tigers tearing through Velkarn formations, humans and animals fighting as one. 12 species signed the compact within a month. Within 6 months, that number doubled. On New Sol, the planet slowly healed. The civilians returned to their homes. Cities were rebuilt. The forests where the Genesis teams had fought became memorials marked with stones bearing the names of fallen soldiers and their tigers. Yuna returned to Earth for the first time since his bonding. He walked through the Genesis facility with Bekdu at his side. The tiger was limping now, his wounds from the battle healing slowly, but he was alive, and that was enough. Dr. Hana met them in the Memorial Garden, a place where the DNA samples of extinct species were stored. Each sample had a small plaque with the species' name and the date it had vanished from the world. "How is he?" she asked, nodding at Bekdu. "Tired," Yuna said. "The enhancements are breaking down. Professor Taemin warned me this might happen. Bekdu's body is aging faster than it should. The modifications created strain on his system." Dr. Hana touched the tiger's head gently. Bekdu rumbled deep in his chest, a sound of contentment. "How long does he have?" "Maybe 5 years, maybe less." Yuna's voice was steady, but Dr. Hana could see the pain in his eyes. "But they will be good years. We will make sure of that." They walked through the garden in silence, looking at the plaques. So many species lost, so many that would never return. But some had been given a second chance. "Do you regret it?" Dr. Hana asked. "The bonding, knowing that you will outlive him?" Yuna thought about the question carefully. Through his connection with Bekdu, he could feel the tiger's simple contentment, the joy of being alive, the warmth of the sun on fur, the satisfaction of a full belly. "No," he said finally. "I would not trade this for anything. Bekdu was dead for 70 years. His entire species was gone. But now he is here. He lived. He fought. He mattered. That is worth the pain of losing him." A message came through on Yuna's comm. It was General Minho. "Lieutenant Yuna, we need you at command. The Velkarn have sent an emissary. They want to talk." Yuna and Bekdu arrived at the command center to find everyone staring at a holographic display. On the screen was a Velkarn unit, but not a war machine. This one looked different, smaller, less threatening. "I am Commander 777, the unit said. "I have left the Velkarn Dominion. I request asylum among humans." Captain Dae-hyun looked skeptical. "Why should we trust you? You led the invasion of New Sol." "Because I want to understand what I saw during our final battle," Commander 777 said. "You were willing to die for each other. The tigers and humans. I have spent 3 centuries as a machine, and I never felt anything like that. I want to know what it means to have something worth dying for." There was silence in the command center. Finally, Yuna spoke. "You saved us," he said. "When you opened that door, you could have killed us, but you let us escape. Why?" "Because in that moment, I remembered what I had lost when my species uploaded ourselves into machines," Commander 777 replied. "We thought we were becoming perfect, but we just became empty. You showed me that life. Real life, with all its pain and fear and joy, is worth preserving." The council debated for hours. Some wanted to destroy Commander 777. Others saw an opportunity. Eventually, they granted the asylum request. Commander 777 became the first Velkarn to defect to humanity. Months passed. The biological compact grew stronger. More species joined. The Velkarn Dominion found itself facing organized resistance for the first time in centuries. And on New Sol, Yuna and Bekdu stood on a hill overlooking the capital. The city lights were beautiful in the darkness. In the forests around them, other tigers roared. The Genesis teams had grown to hundreds now. The vanished had returned. Bekdu was older now, his movements slower, but his eyes were still bright. Through their bond, Yuna felt the tiger's peace. Bekdu had lived a good life. He had fought beside his human. He had seen his kind return to the world. He was content. The Velkarn thought extinction meant the end, Yuna said softly. They forgot that Earth remembers. We remember, and we bring back what was lost. Bekdu roared, and across the forest, dozens of tigers answered. The sound echoed through the night, a declaration that could be heard for kilometers. Far above, in orbit, more transport ships were arriving. They carried new Genesis teams, wolves from the northern forests, bears from the mountains, eagles from the cliffs. All the predators that humanity had lost now returned and ready to defend their world. Ambassador Jiwoo watched from the command station. Beside her, Captain Dae-hyun smiled. They sent war machines after us, Jiwoo said. Perfect, logical, unstoppable machines. And we sent the tigers that once vanished, Dae-hyun finished, along with the wolves and bears and every other predator we once destroyed. We sent them Earth's fury, and the universe will never forget. Down on the surface, Yuna sat beside Bekdu, his hand buried in the tiger's fur. Around them, the forest was alive with the sounds of predators that should not exist. That had been extinct. That had been given a second chance. The night was dark, but the roars of tigers lit it up with defiance and hope. Earth had spoken, and its voice was the thunder of tigers, the howl of wolves, the cry of eagles, the voice of life itself, refusing to be silenced, refusing to be forgotten. The war would continue. The Velkarn dominion was vast and powerful, but they had learned something important on New Sol. They had learned that humanity did not fight alone. They fought with the spirits of every creature that had ever walked the earth, with the strength of predators who remembered what it meant to hunt, to fight, to survive. And that was a strength no machine could match. Yuna looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velkarn were regrouping, planning their next attack. But let them come. Humanity was ready. The Genesis teams would be waiting, and the tigers would roar.